96.3 FM, The Source.
Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. Nice looking day out there. It is 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Not too long ago, there was a movie that we saw, Robin. It was The Three Ladies from NASA. Remember that movie? What was that called again?
Oh, yeah, Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures.
That was a great movie.
All right, so if you've never seen Hidden Figures, I want to tell you about it for a reason. There are three ladies, and these three ladies have unbelievable math skills. This is in the early days of the space program. The three ladies, by the way, are African American, although that's not really the reason I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this because the three ladies had math skills. Math skills. What kind of skills did they have? The same skills that you probably were taught, but they probably paid more attention than I did. Because obviously these ladies could figure out unbelievable things, and their brains were so amazing. And of course, that's what we always expect from our scientists and mathematicians, etc. So then why did we decide to change the way we teach math if it was working so well? If we were able to get people to the moon with the math we had, why did we decide to change it to Common Core? I am not going to pretend I know what Common Core is. All I know is that in doing a radio show, it comes up and is very, very controversial. I'm not a teacher. And ironically, when I speak to teachers, the feedback I get is sort of mixed, I guess that's fair to say. And so who am I to say it's no good? I don't know. To me, as a kid who grew up in that era, I didn't pay attention like those three ladies did, but it works for me. I can balance my checkbook. How about that, right?
Yeah.
I can't figure out how to get a man to the moon, but I can do that. Nicholas Tampio is on the phone. He's written a book about Common Core. It is titled Common Core. If you're looking at the broadcast online, you are seeing a photo of the cover of the book. I got it off of Amazon, where, by the way, it is getting good reviews. And I think it's a brand new book. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Let me scroll down here real quickly. Came out. Oh. Didn't come out yet. March 18th. How do you get reviews when the book didn't come out yet? All right. Nicholas Tampio is an associate professor of political science at Fordham University. Good morning, Nicholas. Thank you for waiting and for being on the air with us today.
Good morning, Larry and Robin. I'm glad to be here.
So I don't know if I said anything that was you agree with or that you don't agree with, but it's hard for me to have an opinion when I'm not a teacher. But and Common Core is more than just math, right?
Yeah, so maybe I'll just give a little background for listeners about what the Common Core is. So it's what the Common Core does is it identifies what kids should be able to do in math and literacy at the end of each school year from K to 12. And the promise of it is that it promises to raise the education bar for all students. So that sounds great. But what happens is that when it's put into practice, then all of a sudden you realize some of the flaws. So on the drawing board it looks good, but then you put it into practice and you're like, hey, wait a minute, this might be a flawed system. So what I did in my book, Common Core, is I actually looked at the standards and looked at the controversy and looked at the scholarship about the standards, and I realized, hey, you know what, these are actually not a very good educational model. And so actually what you were saying about the math, being the previous math, well, lots of math educators see problems with the Common Core standards, and so my view is we should let 100 flowers grow. Let there be different competing educational models. There's no sense for America to have one vision of education for the entire country.
Ah, okay. Well, I like that so far. But so what about a school district? Like here in our area, well, there's one school board that governs the schools in this county. If they adopt Common Core, would those students be at a disadvantage or advantage to the kids in another county, for example?
Well, Florida was one of the early adopters, very enthusiastic adopters of the Common Core. And, I was just looking at the webpage this morning, and a lot of the standards Florida adopted in 2010, local school boards don't have a lot of say. in the standards. It's largely a state level thing that the chief state school officer or the governor, they signal a commitment to the standards. And so, part of my objection here is that it really weakens local control. And so the question of, does it make things better or does it make things worse? I've never met a parent who fights the Common Core because they think it makes the education better for their children. I'm one of many parents who are very active in fighting against it, because I'm saying, listen, this math progression is so fixed from K to 8 that by the time they get to high schools are not offering classes in advanced mathematics to students. That's one of the criticisms made of Common Core math. It's that it's so rigid in the beginning that there's not time at the end for kids to do advanced math. So, part of the reason I wrote my book, Common Core, is really to show parents and give them ammunition and say, hey, listen, the problem is the standards themselves. Stop blaming them.
I want to tell you this, that I like your argument. It seems more concrete and more, I can sink my teeth into what you're trying to say. And no offense to any previous guests, but we've had guests on who would show me a math problem that just seemed out of this world. Like, what? Why is it so hard to add two numbers when it used to be pretty easy? And so I don't know if that was propaganda to get me as a radio host to say I'm against it or not, but I think I like what you're saying as to why we might want to reconsider.
Well, so, one of the interesting things from researching this book was I learned about the math wars, and part of the math wars is it important to teach kids procedural mastery, just getting the right answer, or is it better to teach conceptual understanding and applications where maybe you are doing word problems rather than just straight math problems? And so this is the battle and debate between the behaviorists and the constructivists, between those who just say the right answer demonstrates understanding, and the other side that says, no, you actually got to show your work and define your terms. Here's my view. Why should the federal government put its finger on the scales? Why should the government use Race to the Top in 2009 and then the Every Student Succeed Act of 2015 to influence what standards that states use? And I'm going to go even further and say I really want this to be a local thing. I want parents to have a voice in their school about what kind of math that kids are learning, because the alternative is you're telling parents, hey, listen, you don't have a voice. And that's bad for education, and that's bad for democracy.
Okay, in our county, and I wish I had the superintendent of schools in here right now, but she was telling us that parents have gotten together in our county to decide which textbooks would be used in the classrooms. And I think that is a Florida law. I think each district is given that the permission to do that.
Yeah, well, that, I think basically all around, I don't know the superintendent in the Ocala region, but, administrators are trying to tell parents that there's still local control and that their voice still matters, and I don't want to get into people's motives. I can't see into people's hearts, but what I'm just saying is that the key educational decision is standards, and that's been made elsewhere. So basically, parents are allowed to choose which of the different, they can maybe choose Pearson, maybe they can choose McGraw-Hill, maybe they can use Eureka Math, which is based on the but for me that's like
I like that.
That's not freedom. That's not freedom.
Okay. So now, if that were to happen, then we could perhaps let's say we picked one, and the next county over picked another, and maybe our math scores are not as good as the next county over. To which case, I guess the next time we form a curriculum, we'll use what they used. If theirs is working better, I think I see it that way. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I agree with that. You should have competition. I'm maybe I'm a radical on this point, but I'm not in favor of the state testing or the federal testing, because that prejudges the results, right? Because if you the fact is that scores on Common Core tests are going to continue to rise because states are sticking with the Common Core. But my whole concern is, are those the right tests? Are those measuring the right things? I mean, one of the things I did when writing my book on the Common Core is I took the SAT, and one of the things you learn from the SAT, which is aligned to the Common Core, is that the math is very simple, but the problems can be very wordy and complex. And so the fact is that, all around the country, kids are focusing their math education on the SAT, because that's the Common Core test that can get them into college, get them scholarships. The fact is that testing the right thing? And that's exactly the thing that a lot of people have a problem with. So, I'm really just in favor of a lot of healthy competition between philosophies. I don't want competition to see which school district can get the higher Common Core test scores.
Gotcha.
I really want to see if you have somebody who uses Saxon math, another place that uses more traditional math, another place that uses more constructivist John Dewey math, I'm okay with there being just a real variety for parents and students to choose from.
And I think the students are the ones that are being penalized. I mean, my son is a math whiz. He's 40 right now, but he took everything up to calculus and physics in high school. And then when he went to the community college here to get his AA, he took a calculus class. He could do things in his head, and he would write down the answer to the problem, and the teacher marked it wrong, the professor, and he went up and said, "Why did you do that?" And she said, "Well, I have to know that you know what you're doing, so you have to show your work. That's why I marked it wrong." And that really stifles the child. It really does. 'Cause if you can do things in your head, why do you have to write it down on a piece of paper?
Well, you realize, that part of the controversy with the Common Core is the standards of mathematical practice. And one of the things I show in my book, Common Core, is that there's a debate among mathematicians about the concept of understanding. And the Common Core standards of mathematical practice, their conception of understanding is that you got to show your work. And what you're saying is exactly the critique that a lot of math educators have of the Common Core is maybe it's okay just to get the right answer. Maybe that's enough to show, because otherwise you're asking kids to just spout verbalisms or just words that they don't know the meaning to.
Exactly.
And this is actually really hard for kids on the autism spectrum. There's a good article in the Atlantic about the Common Core math, and kids who are on the autism spectrum can often be excellent at math, but when they have to explain their answers, they can't compete, and now they're failing tests that otherwise they'd be doing great on.
To have the skills necessary to be able to analyze something would also apply to history in a different way, obviously, than math. But as somebody studying history, just learning dates and facts might not understand the implication of, for example, the Revolutionary War, just to come up with an easy one. Is that different? Is Common Core teaching American history, for example, differently than McGraw-Hill or somebody else?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So one of the things that one of the things about the Common Core is that they identify performance expectations. And so they say these are things that students should be able to do at the end of each grade. So it's more of a skill set than a content. But, here's my critique of the Common Core literacy standards that influence history with the C3 framework and the AP U.S. History course. My critique of the Common Core English is that it requires students to cite specific textual evidence. Now, of course, there are occasions when you need to cite evidence, but the thing about the Common Core is you have to use the exact words from the text to answer questions about the text. All right, so I'll just do it one more time. From the time you're in kindergarten until the time you graduate high school, students are being taught to regurgitate. They are not being taught to think for themselves. They are not being taught to make connections between things that they are reading and things outside of the text.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's not what I remember when I was in school. Now I'm 63, so maybe it's too long ago to even be applicable in this case. But I seem to remember teachers doing exactly that, trying to help us understand why this is important in our lives. In fact, I remember students who were like protesting, "Why do we have to learn this?" And then the teacher would explain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing for me is that, the best parts of school for me were when I did independent research projects, when the teacher said, listen, here's the general parameters, read a lot of articles, read a lot of books, go research something, and come back with something. So I wrote a high school paper on the Spanish Civil War that totally opened my mind. It allowed me to research something I was passionate about. I'm a professor of political science. There's some connection between what I did in high school and what I do now. My part of my critique of the Common Core and the whole education reform movement in general is that it's giving students fewer and fewer opportunities to pursue their passions.
Do you know, there's another part of this too, and I just want to hear you comment on this. I feel like a lot of times the schools are giving, kind of some basic skills, but the parents should be there for the rest of it. And let's say, for example, I pick up my son at school when he was a little boy, and I say, "What did you learn in school today?" And he said, "We learned about the Civil War or whatever." And then I should know something about the Civil War as a parent. Say, "Oh wow, what did they teach you?" And then I could say, "Oh, did you realize that right down the road here we have a battlefield that I can take you there?" And so bring it to life a little bit. Same thing, but here's, I guess, what I wanted to say: if the children are learning something different than the way we learned it, for example, the math. Let's say they say, "Dad, can you help me out with this math problem?" And I say, "Well, yeah, here you go. Here's how you do it." Dad, that's not the way we do it. How are we? I think we kind of need to be part of this as parents.
Yeah, well, there's a great article describing the effect of education reforms that sort of are top down. And what happens is that if parents can't help their kids with homework, then they stop volunteering for PTA, they stop running for school board, they stop going to parent-teacher conferences. But also what you see in the research is that they stop participating in political life in general. They say to heck with it. This doesn't matter to me. And so so yes, it's maybe a small-scale example of a parent who can't help their kids with math, but it opens the door to all sorts of other problems where now parents aren't helping their kids with any of their homework, are not going to the schools. Right. They don't, they're not walking inside and meeting teachers, and so I think it has really bad consequences. And maybe to get at one of the points you were making about supplementing, parents should supplement for their kids. They should figure out what makes things interesting for them. Right. But sometimes I get a little bit impatient with parents who say that, and I want to say, but yeah, that doesn't mean you should sacrifice the best part of every school day to the Common Core. Like, don't allow that philosophy of education to just take over the entire school system, the SAT, all these other programs. Like, one of the concrete effects of education reform is that there are many fewer field trips, because students have to spend every day learning this set of standards. And you just think, gosh, field trips are so important. I mean, isn't that a great way to learn about history and see it and experience it? And
right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, here in our town, we have a fort that was, I guess, part of the Seminole Wars way back when, and they rebuilt it. And now students will be able to take little field trips to it and actually be able to stand in the place that they just learned about. And I just think, I don't know, to me, I'm with you. I can remember as a kid going to museums, and all of a sudden everything made sense, or at least one thing at a time made sense.
I'm a firm believer that you got to touch things and breathe the air of certain places, and hands-on experiential learning. That's what I'm a big believer in. And the Common Core is different than standardized testing. Like, I'm aware of the philosophical difference, but the fact is that states adopted the Common Core and Common Core testing at the same time in 2009, 2010, and so they mutually support one another. And so, I want to say, listen, the thing I argue in my book, Common Core, is that, listen, there's some good elements to the Common Core. I'm not going to say that every single element is bad. That doesn't make sense. But what I am going to say is that this package of reforms has a very steep cost, and we need to be attentive to the things that we're losing. And some of the things that we're losing are, going to field trips, like you were just saying. Like, wouldn't it be cool to see that fort? Wouldn't it be awesome to make history come alive? That's what I stand for.
Well, you also talk about the arts in the school, how that the states are, considering adopting the National Core Art Standards. This is going to force the art teachers to give their students a lot of reading and not teach them how to draw or how to paint.
Yeah, well, when you actually look at the full name of the Common Core Standards, I don't have it on hand right now, but it's something like Common Core Standards for English Language Arts, History, Technical Subjects, Art, Science. Like it goes on for a long time, and the part of the thinking is that the Common Core really emphasizes reading a passage of text and then answering questions about the text. And so, art class is going to become, you read a passage of text about art, and you answer questions about it, and now you can test it. And now policymakers can say, hey, listen, we've incorporated art into the curriculum. But, you and I might say, but wait a minute, isn't art doing things with your hands? I mean, shouldn't we allow kids to work on their eyes and their taste and their fine motor skills? I mean, aren't those important skills too? And that's the thing I learned in writing this book about the Common Core is just how much it permeates the entire education system and makes it all about standardized testing.
We've had discussions on this show about eliminating the Department of Education entirely. Just why do we need it in Washington, D.C.? What do you think about that discussion?
That's a tricky one because, I absolutely believe that people close to education should make the key decisions. I really like teachers and students making a lot of key decisions. So the notion of Washington, D.C. making a lot of key decisions, bothers me. I don't like that. Yeah. I think it's anti-democratic. I don't love Tallahassee or Albany making key educational decisions either. Yeah, so I'm not necessarily a states' rights guy. I don't know. They can be dumb. They can be dumb anywhere, right? People can make mistakes anywhere. The thing about the Department of Education is that if the responsibilities are just transferred to a different department, but it's still the buildings stay there, the people have the same jobs, but they're in a different department. That's clearly not going to be satisfactory. So just the name itself is not enough. I think we have to fight for the principle that we have to let the people in the classroom have a say about what's happening in education.
This may be the most intelligent conversation I've ever had about Common Core. I don't pretend to understand it, but I understand where you're coming from, and I definitely understand why you would be opposed to one standard being established for the entire country. The book is called Common Core, National Education Standards and the Threat to Democracy. That gives you a little hint about what you're going to be reading. It's written by our guest, Nicholas Tampio. I have a copy of the book. I would love to give it away to one of you. If you call me, I'll put your name on it. It'll be waiting for you. The rest of us will have to buy it. I found it on Amazon as both a hardcover and a Kindle. You're getting good reviews. And do you have a website that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, if you Google my name, Nicholas Tampio, it'll bring up my homepage at Fordham with information about my book and a lot of my articles.
Okay, I've been mispronouncing your name. I apologize, Tampio.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay.
And some schools are so afraid of the government imposing these standards on them that you pointed out that one elementary school took recess out of the curriculum so they could pound these children with more facts and figures just so they get better test scores.
Yeah, well, there was a school in New York that canceled the kindergarten play, according to the principal, because they needed to get the kids college and career ready.
Oh, my gosh.
It's absolutely horrid.
Oh, my
You're not
gosh.
giving children a chance to be children and explore their own passions by doing this. They're trying to make them robots by, just like you said, regurgitating what they read in the book and don't understand why they're saying it.
You've got it. You've 100% got it.
Well, again, when somebody comes out with a book that helps us understand something and gives us some, I don't want to say ammunition, but gives us the tools we need to make an intelligent argument for or against something. It doesn't always have to be against. I always congratulate them. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for taking some time to be on our show. Again, Nicholas Tampio is the author of the book called Common Core, National Education Standards and the Threat to Democracy. Nick, thank you for being on the show. That was awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun. Have a great day.
All right, you too. We will be right back.
Northwest Florida's largest RV show is coming to the Florida Horse Park. It's the Ocala Rv Show, March 1st through 4th. A huge selection of RVs with show special pricing and drive them home financing. Daily door price of two $100 gas cards each day, no purchase necessary. Thursday through Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 10 to 4. Buy one, get one free admission Thursday. $2 off military and first responders every day. Adults $5, kids under 16 free. The Ocala Rv Show, March 1st through 4th. Wherever you roam, you're always at home.
Hi, this is Simon Amir with Grand Oaks Dental Care. Join me this coming Monday at 9:30 a.m. when I will be live at the studio to talk about how your oral health is related to your overall health. We now know more than ever that a healthy mouth and a healthy body go hand in hand. So if you want to know more, this is your chance to call in and chat with me, Simon Amir, from Grand Oaks Dental Care, live this Monday at 9:30 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Keep up with what's going on in the downtown area with Ocala Downtown Newspaper. Delivering thousands of newspapers to businesses in the downtown area, Ocala Downtown is there to keep you informed. They even have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask in return is that you tell them where you heard about it. It's simple. For more info, just call Tom's Picks, 352-804-1223, and pick up your copy of the Downtown Ocala newspaper today.
And now read Ocala Downtown Newspaper online.
If you don't believe this is a super early azalea season, then open your eyes and look around town. They're everywhere. They're in gorgeous bloom right now. Now all you have to do is get down to Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens for their fabulous truckload azalea sale. Here's a super buy, a special selection of variegated dogwood azaleas, number one size, regular $7.99 for just $2.99. Yes, I said just $2.99. Of course, Bob's still got plenty of those ever-blooming red ruffles. They're still just $3.99. And how about veggies? Bob's got them in a big new veggie section right out front. They're still just $3.49 for the jumbo 4-pack. Buy one, get one at half price on the trees, so don't miss that sale right now. All going on now during the Camellia Show Spectacular, daily till 4, Saturdays till 2 at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, Ocala, homegrown, locally owned since 1952.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Andrew.
Here are today's headlines from The Source, WOCA. President Trump has been talking with congressional leaders about school safety and gun violence. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio from here in Florida was in attendance. He says the Florida legislature is taking action and Congress needs to follow their example.
They're going to pass something, perhaps by the end of this week, on a series of things. Now, we move a lot slower over here. But nonetheless, I think that's an example to us of what I hope we can do in Washington. Get done what we can agree on. We can still debate and try to act on some of the other things, but there are things we agree on. We owe it to these families to do those things.
The president says he wants to get firearms out of the hands of mentally ill people immediately. The president said the NRA is not always right, even as he defended them, and accused some lawmakers of being afraid of the gun rights organization. As that Republican-crafted gun violence prevention package speeds toward House and Senate floor votes, a growing number of Democrats are planning to vote against it. Democrats are taking particular issue with a provision that would allow certain teachers and administrators to carry guns on school campuses. The so-called Marshall program would allow school districts to enter into compacts with sheriff's offices to provide specialized training to school staff. Upon completion, the staffers would be able to carry concealed weapons on school grounds. Republican leaders have hailed the Marshall program as an out-of-the-box approach to gun violence that could become a national model. The father of Florida school shooting victim Meadow Pollack slammed the fake news media for focusing on gun control rather than calling for an increase in school security, including backing President Trump's call for arming teachers in classrooms. Speaking to Fox News after a news conference with Florida Governor Rick Scott on Tuesday, Andrew Pollack said the primary focus is not about gun control, but about the safety of students at schools. Pollack specifically drew focus to CNN when a reporter interjected and placed a microphone microphone with the CNN logo in Pollock's face during the interview. He said, quote, "If you watch this channel," meaning CNN, "all they're talking about is gun control." Pollock then told Fox News while pointing to CNN's mic, quote, "It's this fake news here that's in my mouth here. All they want is ratings, and they're getting them by talking only about gun control," unquote. Pollock said gun control is a second-tier step in the big picture for the United States, but that his current priority was about school safety. A student at Ocala Christian Academy has been kicked out of school for threatening to shoot the place up. An email was sent out to parents that read, quote, "The student went into the boys' bathroom and wrote, quote, 'If you erase what I wrote, I will shoot up the school,' unquote," on the bathroom mirror. Recently installed cameras caught the suspect as he was entering the bathroom, and Ocala police arrested him. The campus was searched, but no weapons were found. A new Smyrna Beach female teacher was arrested Wednesday for an alleged sexual relationship with a 14-year-old student that involved sending him nude photographs and providing him with marijuana. Stephanie Peterson Ferry, who is 26 years old, was arrested on 2 counts of lewd or lascivious battery and 1 count of transmission of harmful materials to a minor, according to the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. Ferry was a science teacher at New Smyrna Beach Middle School and resigned on Monday. School district spokesperson Nancy Waite told reporters that Ferry told the school she resigned for personal reasons. The school district sent out a recorded phone message to the middle school families about the incident and passed along a message from the sheriff's department to contact the Child Exploitation Unit if they had any information about other potential victims. Ferry was brought to the Volusia County Branch Jail, where her bail was set at $25,000. The Florida House of Representatives has issued a series of subpoenas to investigate how local governments responded to the Parkland massacre and their interactions with accused shooter Nicholas Cruz before it happened. House Speaker Richard Corcoran signed them in dramatic fashion at the front of the House chamber.
Members, I've just signed the subpoenas. Madam Clerk, will you attest? Madam Clerk, please deliver the executed subpoenas to the House General Counsel Office for service. Are there other reports?
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
Those subpoenas are headed for the Broward Sheriff's Office, the Broward County School Board, Broward County Government, the City of Coral Springs, and the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, but lawmakers did not subpoena the Department of Children and Families, which investigated Cruz in 2016 and concluded that he was stable. If you enjoy gardening, the Florida Senate has a bill for you.
Senator Rob Bradley wants to stop local governments from enforcing any regulations that prevent people from growing vegetables in their front yards. And Senator Gary Farmer brought the puns.
I like this bill, make no beans about that, but I'm wondering if any amendments are going to turn up, and if you'll let us have open debate and discussion about those amendments.
It got goofier when Senator Bradley added an amendment saying local governments cannot ban plastic straws. Turns out he doesn't like the recycled ones.
I'm after the paper straws.
Bradley's gardening and plastic straw protection bill is now ready for a vote on the Senate floor. Rick Flagg, Tallahassee.
A 7,000-year-old Native American burial site has been found underwater in the summer of 2016. A diver searching for relics in the Gulf of Mexico picked up a barnacle-crusted jaw from a shallow spot off the shore of Manasota Key. The specimen sat on a paper plate in his kitchen for a couple of weeks before he realized it was probably a human bone. The diver sent a picture to Florida's Bureau of Archaeological Research, where it landed in front of Ryan Duggins, the Bureau's underwater archaeology supervisor. A single molar was still attached to the jawbone, and the tooth's cusps were worn smooth. With a team of fellow underwater archaeologists, Duggins relocated the dive spot about 300 yards from the shore and 21 feet below the surface. First, he spotted a broken arm bone on the seabed. Then, when he noticed a cluster of carved wooden stakes and 3 separate skull fragments in a depression, Duggins realized he might be dealing with a Native American burial site. The discovery was announced yesterday by the Florida Department of State. And those are the headlines from the source, WOCA 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
So our thoughts and prayers are with you and everybody over there. How is everything with you?
Everything is good. It's both us and the radio station went through some tough times there for losing my grandmother as well as Patsy, and she'll be sorely missed as well. And but it's like it comes in waves, you know. I mean, life throws you curveballs in waves, but we're doing very good. You know, it's new year and we're back into it. It's nice to be able to go back to work and stay busy and help people and get back to it. So that's kind of what we're doing, keeping ourselves busy so that you keep your mind off of it.
Yesterday, we spoke to a couple in Beverly Hills. They preferred to remain anonymous, and they are part of a group called Food Addicts something anonymous. I can't remember the whole name of the group, but in other words, they were telling us that they had been overweight, and they decided to do something about it. They convinced themselves that they had been addicted to food, and specifically the addiction they laid out was flour products.
Oh, well, the food addiction is the largest addiction in the world. I mean, they're hands down. More so than any other drug that you can think of is the addiction that people have towards food, and, cheeseburgers to fast food to chips to, processed foods to everything else. I mean, hands down, that's number one as far as addictions go. Yeah.
Yeah, and so based on the conversation we had yesterday, I wanted to ask you a question. When you have somebody in there that has to lose weight and you're helping them out, is there a dividing line between those who are addicted to food and are obese and those who are not addicted to food and are obese? And how do you handle the two groups differently? Or is there no such thing? If somebody's obese, are they automatically addicted to food?
Now, well, I mean, you do meet, I will tell you this, someone's obese, yes, they have food addictions, and yes, they do not eat properly, okay? 99% of the time. There are medical cases, absolutely, where, from what I've seen, there are medical cases where, yes, you can have specific thyroid problems or a medical condition, and you try to eat well and everything else, and you are vastly overweight, and that's a problem. However, even those conditions can be drastically affected by eating properly or going on the diet program that we provide. Let's say that they get exacerbated because of eating poorly as well. Okay, so that's usually what we see. Now, most all of the patients that we deal with at Dr. Jordan's office deal with, they've been sent to me by Dr. Jordan, where he's had a sit-down conversation and says, yes, you have to go lose some weight, meaning it's not a choice anymore. I'm your doctor, and I'm making you go over there because if you don't, you're going to die. Now, that's diabetics to heart patients, everything under the sun that he sends over there. When their numbers and things get to a certain place, those are the patients that we deal with most of the time. Our weight loss program is a very serious weight loss program, but it is extremely effective. I had a patient that came in yesterday, and she had her cholesterol when she started with us was 240, which is a walking heart attack basically. And Dr. Jordan ran her blood and her cholesterol yesterday, and it was at 120. So
wow,
yeah, he's ecstatic.
And how
about
long?
That, and that's from being on our That's been on our program 5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And have
she's on our program 5 weeks and lost some 15 to 20 pounds.
Oh, that was my next question.
Of fat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's very good. That's very safe, because you hear programs saying you're going to lose 10 pounds in a week.
A week,
that's not good.
That's not good. It's not safe. And mind you, that's with zero exercise. Mm-hmm. All of that is controlled by what she eats. And most people think that, she's not eating anything. No, that's the opposite. She's eating 6 meals a day. It's the opposite of, she's not starving herself. She's not pulling everything away. She's actually making sure that she eats. Your body needs to eat. You have to eat, but it needs good, clean, nutrients, good food, meats, fruits, vegetables, all of the things that we, show you how to eat. It doesn't deprive yourself of things either, meaning, well, I'm just going to stop eating this altogether. I'm going to stop, no carbs or no that. No, that's not how. That's not sustainable over long periods of time, and that's what this diet comes in. So that's what we do, and we tip the scales in all of our patients' favor. And there's also injections, and there's meds that we give them, and so on and so on. But it's a program that is sustainable for the rest of your life, and it shows you and teaches you how your body is very, very attuned and very efficient at burning fat and being healthy, provided that you put in the right fuel, you put in the right thing.
Way, yeah.
Yeah, and you do it the right way, your body will absolutely become very, very healthy and clean.
Now, Larry had a story this morning about a woman that had her entire stomach removed because there was some kind of a genetic cancer that could be present in the stomach. So the woman had her whole stomach removed. How does this affect the way you eat and the health of your own self if a vital organ is gone like that?
Well, all right. If her entire stomach was removed, then I would assume that she's receiving nutrients and food, via IV, intravenously. I mean, that's the only other way that I would know that she could, or that the surgeons made some sort of stomach for her, okay? Meaning use an intestine or this, that, and the other, and created a new one, just like they replace, ligaments and different things in knees. Other than that, I mean, as far as, what your question would be, I would say, even still, let's say that you're, and lots of people go and have their stomach, stapled or shrunk, or, a band's put around it to make it much, much smaller, to lose weight. Well, that's fine. You can achieve all of the same goals without having the surgeries or doing any of that by, simply eating much smaller meals throughout the day, meaning little snacks. So eat breakfast, then have a snack. Eat lunch, then have a snack. Eat dinner, then have a snack. It keeps your body from ever having spikes in, glucose or enzymes or anything else, sugars or any of that kind of stuff. It keeps your body from spiking, meaning that most people, you go to work, you go eat lunch, you have this big lunch, pizza, whatever else. You come back to work and you're exhausted. You want to take a nap.
Yeah, right.
That's everybody, and that's because of the spikes and the peaks and the valleys. If you were thinking about a graph or a roller coaster, so to speak, of what you're putting into your body. You starved it, nothing. Then all of a sudden you fill it full of, fuel. Then it's like if you have a small fire going and an airplane came over and dumped 50,000 gallons of gasoline, it's going to put the fire out. But if you tried to pour just a gallon on it, it's going to explode, right? Right. That's the same thing with your energy and everything else. So, what I would say, if someone's had their stomach removed, or if it's lap bands or anything, it's smaller. You're eating a lot of meals, Robin, but just much smaller meals. But you still have to get that nutrients. I mean, you have to get that nutrients into your body. And that's the better way to do it, is over little meals.
What caught my attention earlier when you were talking about losing weight was that you, in addition to maybe feeling better, looking better, you mentioned lowering cholesterol, you mentioned reducing the diabetes or the risk of diabetes. So it sounds like when we improve our weight, that we're also preventing other things that are probably, I don't know if it's more serious or not, but other things that sound very serious is maybe what I want to say.
Very serious. Weight is the number one. I mean, listen, this is the number one killer in the United States. Okay. As a country, we are obese. So people dying from overweight and as a a result of that and eating is the number one cause of death, period. It's overweight, and it leads to, yes, diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, all of these things that are very, very serious and very scary. But it's the number one cause, and people, well, I'm 75 or I'm 80. That's why I had a heart attack or stroke. No, it's because you're overweight, and that's predominantly the biggest cause of problems and surgeries that take place. Okay, stents going in, bypass surgeries, and all of those types of things. Yeah, that's because you've got 40 years of eating this and that, and now if you don't do this, then you're going to have some serious problems. So that's all the things that are taking place. Yes, 100%. What you eat, you are what you eat. Yes, that's the truest statement that there is. It's what you put in, that's what you're going to get out. So if you're eating cheeseburgers and fast food every day, yeah, if you have youth on your side, it'll last, but it's not going to last forever.
Right.
It's going to tell on you.
And if I could just repeat, Mark is not in a far away place. He's in the Villages. Dr. Jordan's office is right down the road from where we broadcast from here in the Paddock Mall. So if you are in the area and you are looking for some care, doctor, orthopedic care, diabetes care, geriatric care is kind of a big umbrella statement, isn't it? There's so many things that we care for because of age, but medical weight loss is a big one. And the one thing we didn't mention that's also always on your list is the platelet-rich plasma. So if we've damaged our cartilage, for example, in our knees, let's attach it to the conversation because of maybe the burden of weight after many, many years of walking. You can maybe regenerate that cartilage.
Well, and I've had many patients that have come in, had their knees worked on, and then immediately started a weight loss program so that, okay, I'm not going to do the same thing again. I'm not going to, tear up my knees because they're carrying around all this extra weight, and they lose 35, 40 pounds, and, they realize how much of their life that they get back. What's amazing to me is what people feel is normal. That I used to play golf. I used to do this. I can't do any dance. I used to do any of these things that I used to do, and they don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's just the way life is. I'm overweight. I can't go exercise. I can't do this. I can't take walks. Yeah, you can. You do not have to be